in 1982, the immunology program at Yale started seeing these men. We first heard about it amongst people in New York. We heard of these men who were having this terrible disease, which obviously saw there, for some reason, their immune system collapsing. And they were dying of all these opportunistic infections that normally wouldn't. And we didn't know what was going on. We just called it human immune deficiency disease. We didn't know what it was. We all started collecting samples from these people and sending them down to the National Institutes of Health in Washington, where there was a Professor Gallo who actually was the first person to find in the lymph nodes of people with this strange virus, which he called the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. It was an absolute tumultuous time. I remember the hospital. We didn't know what we were dealing with. We all wore masks and gloves all the time around these patients. When I got back, one of the first things I did was to set up an organisation called the AIDS Society for Asia and the Pacific. And at that stage, working with people in the Red Cross in Thailand, we started to find HIV in great numbers in Thailand. And of course, the disease then spread rapidly through the Southern Hemisphere, particularly in Asia. And then the numbers started to really rise up. And when I first got back here, we still had Prince Henry Hospital, which was out at Little Bay. And we set up a unit out there to treat people with HIV. Since most of these patients were basically going into a hospice situation because we couldn't do anything for them for a while, just had to be tender loving care, study them. But I set this unit up out there, and I continued to work in about 12 Asian countries, trying to convince them that that they had to take this seriously. With more knowledge came more discrimination. And it was a terrible time. The disease was bad enough, but the discrimination and the fear was just terrible. It was so sad to see these people who, for so long, before we got the antiretrovirals, they were suffering and dying, and yet they were so discriminated against. But we were desperate at the time to try and find something, anything that would slow this thing down. And initially, we only had one drug, and it didn't take very long for the virus to become resistant to that one drug. It was really only when we were able to give people 2 or 3 different drugs at the same time that we got on top of it. And now, really, the miracle is that if one's accurately diagnosed and managed, you should be able to live a normal lifespan with HIV because we can keep the virus under control.